What does it take to really win in life and get on top when you've been the underdog? Today, we're going to look at the heart of a champion. We're going to look at Bryan Caraway and learn about his unlikely rise to tremendous success and what it's taken for him to get there. So check it out. What a huge opportunity that you and I have today. You know, many of you are subscribers to this channel because I'm helping you become successful in life, in your business and real estate. But the reality is, in the end, it takes a certain kind of heart to have true success in life. So here is Bryan Caraway. This is Kid Lightning. And you've made quite a name for yourself in the octagon, fighting UFC, starting from like nothing. And yet, even before you started fighting, man, you had quite a childhood to go through.
Yeah, it was crazy. Back then it was just normal to me. But as I get older, I think back, I thought, man, those are some crazy times. I grew up in Goldendale, a small little town in Washington State, about 3,000 people on the Columbia River. My family owned like a ranch farm, and my dad had a really bad stroke. And my mom did nursing, and she had to basically quit all of her job to take care of him. And through that process, we lost our ranch, we lost everything. And actually at a little point in time, we actually lived outside in a tent because we lost everything. So there's about 6 months that we lived in a tent, just trying to take care of him to get my dad's benefits from being a veteran. And so yeah, we had some tough times, and then his recovery, and eventually my parents kind of made it back around. And yeah. But we lived it wasn't bad, but definitely wasn't a glamorous life.
Well, and I think, Bryan, there's a lot of people that can relate. I mean, listen, we're living in some of the blessed of times, but the reality is, as a lot of us, we still go through a lot of hardships in our childhood. And then a lot of us, when we struggle in life later as adults, a lot of us will go and blame that childhood, or we'll blame our circumstances, we'll blame the things that happened. And yet you somehow kind of rose above that. What were some of the most pivotal moments in your childhood?
I'd have to say when I found wrestling. I was a big fan of Hulk Hogan and all that stuff.
Right,
and
totally.
My parents actually moved to Montana after we kind of lost our ranch, just to have a new start. And I saw a wrestling flyer there, and I thought it was WWF. Well, I found out quickly it wasn't, but I still loved it, and I think that my hardships growing up as a child, it strengthened me. I actually give that a lot of credit to the trials and tribulations I went through, made me stronger in the end, and I think it helped me ultimately be, where I am today. Totally. And at wrestling, I found wrestling, and that's a tough sport.
No, wrestling really is, and so you got some experience in learning how to use your body, but you probably didn't grow up thinking, I want UFC, because that didn't even almost exist at the time. So when you went to college, what did you think you were going to become?
Yeah, not at all, man. I didn't even know about the sport actually at all until I was in college, my sophomore year. I actually went to college on a wrestling scholarship. Our family, we didn't have any money to be able to afford to go to college. It wasn't even, none of my siblings. I have an older brother, 9 years older, and two older sisters, 11 and 12 years, and they didn't even finish high school. My parents didn't finish high school. I was the first person in my family, for as long as back I can remember, that even finished high school, let alone winning a scholarship to college.
Well, and that's amazing. So really the big reason for you even going to college was because someone else was going to pay for that.
Absolutely. I did very well in academics. I was on the honor roll in high school. I just wanted to be the first person in our family to break through and go to college, and wow. I was fortunate enough to win a scholarship for wrestling, and I wanted to be a doctor. At first I was bouncing between a chiropractor and a doctor, right. And it was something in the medical field. Chiropractor, doctor,
ultimate fighting champion. Like, how did that come about?
It's funny. So I'm wrestling in college, and it was my second year, my sophomore year. My teammate Matt Linegar, his cousin was Dennis Hallman, who happened to be a UFC superstar way back in the late '90s, early 2000s. He fought for the UFC world title, and they cut the wrestling college at the college I was at. They cut the wrestling program, and I was like, man, what's next? And my buddy said, hey, you should get into fighting. I said, you're crazy. That's bananas. I can't even believe you guys do this. And a few months later, I'm training jiu-jitsu, and I show up to a fight, and I'm on the poster.
What? Okay, wait. You were training some jiu-jitsu. You show up, and you're on the poster?
On the poster. Didn't even know I was going to fight at all.
How'd they even get your picture?
My buddy did it. My buddy did all the stuff. We'd take pictures. He just took us up, put me, from sparring, training, put me on the poster. And I said, dude, I'm not
You
fighting.
have got to be freaking kidding. You show up, and there's probably a promoter that's like, yes, you're fighting.
Absolutely.
What happened?
It was bananas, man. I was like, I'm not fighting. I don't have anything. My buddy's like, here's your cup, here's your mouthpiece. At first, I was like, no. And it started becoming a problem because I was fighting this local guy. I was actually in Wenatchee, Washington. And it became a big ordeal where I was like, you know what, just fine, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Dude, he just got peer pressured into like into like the ring. This is incredible. What happened?
So I go out there and you know, I do really well and I win. I said, you know,
Wait, you won?
Yeah.
Wait. You just like glanced over that like, okay, freaking, you're like, first of all, you get thrown in the ring. You get like, fine, I'll do it. How did the actual match go?
You know, I was freaking so afraid. All I knew was how to wrestle and, you know, throw the punches the best I could. You know, I felt like I was a pretty good athlete. So I just came out there and I would throw punches until I was almost blue in the face. And then when I got tired, I would just take the guy down and out wrestle him. I just basically turned into a wrestling match. I'd hold the guy down, and then when the ref said, we need more action, they stand up, and I just go crazy like a freaking,
we need more action.
Like a Wolverine, and then I take the guy down where I got tired.
Like a Wolverine. Dude, you see this, dude? I got to tell you, dude, when I was in Vegas and I was at your fight, I see Kid Lightning coming out and freaking just, like, it was like lightning. It was mind-blowing how freaking fast and like, dude, it was incredible. First of all, thank you for the front row tickets. Like, that was, me and my brother had like the time of our life. But yeah, you have a total, like, look at what has happened. So like, we could spend a lot of time talking about the story and the career, but there's some things that I really want to know. Like, when you look at winning in life today, I know that real estate's like your next game that you're kind of doing when you're not in the ring, but what do you think it is inside of you that has lent itself to so much success in this space?
Well, first of all, just, got to believe in yourself and just knowing that, for me, like, I believe all things are possible through Christ. So that's a big mover for me. And then, I think wrestling just taught me to not give up. You know what I mean? That, I have my old coach told me this formula, and it was C over T equals R. And
C over T
equals R. And that's consistency over time equals results. And it's been proven in my life since I was, 10-year-old wrestling. The more consistent, the more I put into something, and the more I would really dive into it, I would see results. Maybe not always the results I want. I would lose, but every time I lost, I would grow from it. So I realized that anytime I had any adversity in my life, anytime I'd look back on it, it made me a stronger person. So I realized, life keeps moving forward, and you need to move forward with it and just stay as positive as you can. There's obviously trials and tribulations that happen, but ultimately, if you keep your mental focus, you're gonna triumph over things.
Wow, so this is amazing. Like, I want you to understand that in my game of real estate, it's not an athletic sport the way this is, and yet there's always such incredible parallels between some of the most successful minds on the planet and then the most successful minds in the games. When you look at sports, when you look at LeBron James, when you look at some of the most successful people out there, they all have this conviction of self. When you say to believe in yourself, what does that really mean?
Sometimes I don't even know, it's just realizing that for me, first and foremost, I realize like I have, family and friends that are always going to be there in my life, and they've proven it to me when times were rough, and that there's always something positive to look forward to. So when I have that, it's kind of frees up, some things. And then ultimately, learning to have fun with things. Sometimes you can put so much pressure on yourselves. Like, I actually dealt with anxiety through a long period of time, wrestling in high school. I realized there's two things you can do. You could either run from your fear or you can run at it. And, I felt through over time that whenever I would attack and come at my fear, it was always a lot smaller than I realized. It might be this big giant shadow, and the closer I got, it actually ended up becoming a lot smaller. So it's just taking chances sometimes, taking risk, and you just got to have this positive self-talk all the time that things are going to work out no matter what, and just always keep pushing forward, as much as you can.
Dude, I hope you're getting everything. I hope you're picking up everything that he's dropping right now, because these are real golden nuggets of someone that is an ultimate fighting champion. What are some of the highlights of your career so far?
Man, so bring it back to actually even a funnier story. Actually, when I started fighting in college, I actually started a mixed martial arts program at the college, and that was a pretty good highlight for my career in the very beginning, because it started it all. Me and my buddy Tommy Truix, who actually had passed away, we said, hey, let's start this program. You know, they have all these cool club sports at the school. Let's start this club sport, you know, for fighting. We figured they're probably not going to give us money for the school to say we're beating the crap out of each other. So we said, hey, we can do self-defense, women's self-defense, all this stuff. We showed all these nice martial arts of self-defense and all these things. We put this whole PowerPoint on. The school said, okay, we'll do it. We'll give you like $3,000 a quarter to buy equipment. You could use the old wrestling room. And man, that just took off. So we had equipment to trade. We're so poor college students. Now we have all this new gear we didn't even know what to do with. And so that kind of started off. And then there's a point where I said in my head, you know what? I want to do this. You know, like I fought on a TV, like a small TV promotion, and I got recognized around campus. And I said, man, this could actually happen. Like, you know, there's some stuff I think I could, you know, do this. So I said, me and my best friend and my girlfriend at the time, Strait, we got together and thought, how can we, you know, put all of our time and just be consistent into this sport. And my buddy came up and said, hey, let's buy an RV, like, and just get rid of all of our bills. If this is what we really want to do, let's not waste, you know, time doing, you know, these little jobs to get us from here to here. Let's just try to A to B as fast as we can. So we bought a 1979 Chevy Midas.
Wow. Okay, so dude, I've got so much mad respect for what's going on right now, because what I'm really hearing is insane levels of commitment. Are you kidding me? Like, move out, move into an RV. And like, dude, how are you gonna how is living in an RV gonna get you to point A to point B faster?
Here I am, I'm in my senior year of college. I'm just finishing up. I'm studying for my MCATs to go to medical school. Here my mom's like, oh my gosh, she's gonna go to medical school. He's gonna be a doctor.
Dude, your mom's probably so
I called
proud.
up and said, hey, we wanna buy an RV and I'm gonna stop studying, going to school, and I'm gonna become, you know, a professional fighter.
So you're gonna drop out of college to become a professional fighter?
Yeah, basically. Stop. Yep, exactly. So I did my undergrad and I'm about to get into medical school. You know, I'm studying for my MCATs and gonna go to med school. And I said, you know, I want to put that off. I can go to med school when I'm old because this is where I'm passionate at, and I believe, you know, I think I could really do something with this.
You found your lane.
And we did it. We bought this RV. It lived 3 years in that thing, in this teeny 22-foot RV with 2 other people. I made probably $200 a month coaching little kids wrestling, maybe $300 a month, and it was enough to pay for the food. I asked my coach at the time, hey, can we park this outside the gym? I'll help coach, I'll help do things around in exchange for power, and I showered inside the gym. And we all 3 lived in that thing for 3 years, and we all made it to a high level. My girlfriend at the time, Tate, I ended up coaching her to being a 2-time world champion. She was UFC.
2-time world champion.
Yep, all the way from day one with me,
So
all the way
you're
to
the UFC fighter, and you're the freaking coach.
So I coached my other buddy. He actually ended up fighting for Strikeforce on Showtime and TV, and he did some really great things. And
Incredible.
So yeah, it was a really fun journey, and it's still not over. You know, I just kept grinding. Next thing you know, I got on the Ultimate Fighter reality TV show, and after fighting on a lot of different other TV organizations, and I ultimately won a contract with the UFC. And you know, a couple years later, I'm top 5 in the world, and just, you know, chugging forward.
Dude, check that out. I mean, the advice that I've really heard today, first of all, I'm just totally inspired. Like, it basically says, I'll stop at nothing to get what I want. I don't care if it means living in an RV, in a van, down by the river, and showering inside the locker room, like whatever it's gonna take. And now look at where you're at today, right? You're having this incredible level of success. You are on the rise, and you've gotten in the game of real estate, and you've started buying homes, right?
Absolutely, man. I love that. I'm a big believer, you know, as I got older, to realize, like, you know, diversifying things, you know, realizing like it's good to put a lot of your time on one thing to be really great at something. But when it comes to money, I found I've lost money putting things in. I realized, you know what, you need to move some things around, having some other mentors. My buddy Ryan Booth, he does a lot of real estate up in Washington, and I was really lucky to meet him and have him as a small mentor. He actually helped me buy my first home. You know, he helped me buy my home, fixed it, renovated it, went in, put some elbow grease. He had a really good team that, you know, he helped me with a lot of his resources to kind of show me the ropes, and was able to flip that one and you know, kind of learn the ropes on that, and did a couple houses, flipped them, and then just parlayed that money into buying another house that I have now as a rental property, and actually a house that I own as well, that I live in back at home and rent out to some of my other fighter buddies. So, wow. And once I saw that, and I saw, like, man, I love numbers, you know, and I just love strategy, and I feel like there's a lot of great strategy. I just look at real estate as almost like a sport itself, you know. I really like it and enjoy it, and it has a great track history record throughout the times. As real estate is just, there's so many people that are so wealthy and doing so well in life, and that have come from real estate. So
true.
I love it.
Awesome. Well, guys, Bryan, he's freaking crushing it in the octagon. He's crushing it in the ring, but he's also crushing it outside the ring in the real estate game. That's actually what's brought us together, is that started checking out some of my videos on YouTube, went to some of his fights, and now in coming together, we're going to be partnering up together. We're going to be taking the world down. It's this small little thing called world domination, and he's going to be freaking crushing it both in the ring and outside. And I'm excited to play with you, brother.
Man, I'm pumped, man.
It's going to be wonderful. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for watching today. And Bryan, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and insights. And I'm excited to see how it translates so well into the game of real estate, because it is a sport. And I'm excited to see you continue crushing it in both those arenas.
Gnarly, me too, man. I can't wait till the future.
Awesome. Listen, guys, thank you so much for watching. Listen, if you're not, make sure you are a subscriber. And if you want to know yourself, how do you get in the game of real estate the way Bryan is, the way I am, click the link in the description below, talk to a member of my team, and we'll break down your game plan to help you start crushing it in real estate too.